Children are naturally curious about animals, especially those that are not indigenous to their locale. They often learn about mammals first, and then they begin to notice that not all animals have fur, but smooth, scaly skin. Those with scaly skin run on all fours, and some slither. For many, this may be their first up-close and comfortable encounter with a lizard. Green anoles, commonly called American chameleons, are small green lizards found in southeastern United States. Anoles are branch-dwelling organisms that eat only living insects. They get water from dewdrops on plants rather than from a stationary water source. Anoles need the reflection of light from water droplets to be able to detect the presence of water. In Activity 5, students are introduced to the second of 3 live animals studied in this module: anoles, or sometimes called anoles. They will observe, draw, and make notes about the structures and behaviors of anoles. This activity will take about 45 minutes. The vocabulary introduced in this activity is American chameleon and green anole. For this activity, you will need from the kit, for each team of 4, magnifiers, thermometer, and the terrarium from Activity 4. For the class, the spray bottle. From the living material shipment, 8 anoles, 1 per group of 4 students. In addition to the kit materials, teachers will need to supply, per each team of 4, a small branch or twig and spring water. Make copies of Activity Sheet 5 for the students. To prepare for the anoles' arrival and distribution to students, see immediate care and instructions included with the shipment, or see page 12 of the teacher's guide. The anoles will arrive in a paper canister. You will want to move them to a temporary home, such as an empty terrarium, with a lid like this. Anoles are natural branch dwellers. Place a couple of branches in the temporary home for them to climb on. Spritz the sides of the terrarium and then mist again daily. Anoles require a warm environment with a temperature between 21 and 26 degrees Celsius or 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. A thermometer is recommended to monitor the temperature. Refrain from placing the holding tank in a direct sunlight. If the classroom is cooler, particularly at night, shine 1 or more reading lamps into the terrariums. It is not necessary to feed anoles upon arrival. Feeding should average twice a week. Young crickets or mealworms are suggested food. Do not feed them common black crickets or large mealworms. When you're ready to distribute the anoles, you may want to first place them in a large clear plastic bag and then remove them one at a time into the terrariums. The focus of this activity relates to a common state science standard for living things: structure and function. How organisms employ these structures for survival is what adaptation of living things is all about. To introduce this activity, write American chameleon and green anole and explain these are 2 names for a type of lizard that students will be studying. These American chameleons are native to the southeastern United States. True chameleons are typically found in Africa. We will call them anoles. Kathy, how should we act around the anoles if we want them to behave naturally?
I think we should kind of keep our voices very soft
Okay.
and not move quickly, because looming over them and moving very quickly scares them.
What about tapping on the side of the terrarium?
Oh, I think that would be awful. I would hate to think. I would like to have them treated like if I were in that container.
Okay, soft voices. Distribute the terrariums and branch to each team. Have the students place the branch, one end securely into the soil, the other leaning against the other end of wall in terrariums so that they incline at an angle. Have students spritz the side of the terrarium before placing the animals in the terrarium. Then you will place one anole and a thermometer into the terrarium. Kathy, why don't you help me set this up, okay?
Okay.
So, first thing we're going to do is
Put our branches in.
put our branches in.
Okay.
Okay, kind of push one side down there. 2 branches isn't always necessary, but these are branch dwellers. Gives them a little bit more area to move around on. We're going to put the thermometer in so we can monitor the temperature. And the students will use the hand lenses as they observe. I'm going to spritz the side. Okay, so our habitat is really all ready for our anoles. Now, Kathy, let's go ahead and get ready to put our anole in, and remind the teachers that we have put the anole in this plastic bag. It really makes it easier for the teacher to see the anoles when she or he is getting them out one at a time. So we're going to watch Kathy as she does this.
Get them down in there a little bit.
Okay.
I get a little nervous when a big hand comes in after them.
Okay, now that's good. If you cup your hand around them, then it does hold them a little bit more securely. And now just drop them in one at a time into the terrariums, and there you go. All right. Kathy, what do you see going on inside the terrarium?
Well, he's being very still right now. I think he's afraid that, we're awfully big people here and he might be a predator. So he's watching us closely, isn't he?
Kind of exploring and probably listening very intently.
Maybe
too.
if we hold real still and be quiet for a second, we might get to see him eat or drink.
He camouflages well because he's green and blends right in with the green grass. Distribute activity sheet 5 to each student and a magnifier to each pair of students. Review the questions with the students prior to beginning their observation. The activity sheet asks students to make and record observations about structures and behaviors and to draw an anole on the back. After students have had time for observing and recording, it's recommended the terrariums be removed during the discussion of activity sheet 5. But before we do that, Kathy, we know that the anole is really pretty close to the top. So one of the things we recommend is that you use binder clips just at the ends to hold the top on securely. Kathy, let's just go over some of these questions that the students will be asked to respond to. So what did you notice first about the anole?
Well, that he was still, when he first got in there, he watched everything that we did. He was very bright green.
Oh.
And then, we started seeing some really cool action.
So his color was green. The skin color was green. Does it have any marks on it, or can you describe any marks on the anole?
He seemed to have a little white stripe down his back.
Okay, we're referring to him as a he. We're not really sure, are we?
No, we aren't.
Okay. His belly was very white?
Yes.
All right. Could you see the anole breathe?
Yes, his sides were moving in and out, and you could actually even see the little ribs under his skin.
Okay, so he's a vertebrate. Is the anole's tail longer or shorter than his body?
His tail was longer than his body.
Okay.
A really long tail.
You know, this is something interesting about anoles is that as a defense mechanism, when they are under attack by a predator, then the predator might grab it by the tail, and the tail will actually fall off naturally. And you can tell that that has happened if the tail is maybe shorter than what it would normally be, longer than its body. And it might be a little bit nubby on the end. But then the predator is left just holding the tail, and the anole is scampering away. How many toes did you notice?
5 little toes on his front feet and 5 little toes on each of his back feet.
Wow, okay. Look at its head. Which directions did the eyes point?
They were on both sides of his head, so it looked like he could be seeing a lot of different directions. It looked like he could see behind him and forward also, and on the side.
Okay, which is kind of typical of a animal that's prey. How did it close its eyelids? Did you notice something different about the way the eyelids closed?
The top lid came down to meet the bottom lid at the center of the eye.
And for mammals, it's just different, isn't it? The lower lid stays very still and the top lid comes down. Did you notice how far back on his head did his mouth go?
It went all the way around to the back or the side of his like under his eyes.
Really? It's kind of a big mouth.
Very big.
Okay, all right. Does it have any nose holes, did you notice?
Look like 2 little nostrils in the front.
Okay, and what about ears? Did you see any ears?
There are 2 little brown holes that actually were at the back of his head, right before the neck.
Oh, okay. How did the anole move?
Very quickly. Moved on all 4s, kind of not quite crawled, but was very low to the ground, very fast.
Scampered. Okay. Have the students spray the plants and twigs in the walls of the terrarium twice a day. Keep the terrariums in a sunny place or near a desk lamp to maintain the temperature. Check the thermometers periodically. For cleanup, leave the thermometers in with the anoles and return the terrariums to their place in the classroom. Collect and return the magnifiers to the kit. Then, guide students to review pages 4 through 6 in the Delta Science Reader.